What is going on, you guys? Today I have another super quick episode for you. This one is going to be reviewing a YouTuber named Chisha Zed, and the episode is titled TikTok Hates Happily Married Women. Proof. Sounds like an interesting one, so let's hop into it.
TikTok hates happily married women, masculine men, and families. Meet Griselda, a full-time worker and also a devoted wife, who recently posted a video on her TikTok that was captioned, "What I cook for my husband after my 9 to 5." That video was very popular. The video that she posted got over 5 million views, and it appeared that it was a hit, but for all the wrong reasons. Instead of the chicks in the comment congratulating her, showing appreciation to a woman doing something nice for her husband, she faced a barrage of hate, especially from other women. Why? Well, because she was doing something nice.
Before it even gets any further, the one important thing to remember is that hate, judgment, insecurity, negativity, keyword insecurity there, right? None of that ever comes from a healthy place, right? Like same level from a positive place, right? It always comes from below, right? Negativity, of course, right? Hate, all these things are not good. And why? Because if you get down to the core of this issue, the people who were probably quote unquote triggered, defensive, and giving negative comments on that video were probably insecure because they have struggled with dating, are divorced, have a tough time keeping a guy around, and the list goes on, right? But they're probably bitter in some way, which is unfortunate, right? Because it's like, in any of those situations, there's a positive reframe for it. It's like, you could ask them, "Oh, that's amazing." You could say like, "That's amazing, congratulations! Like I love to see this. How did you do this?" Right? Or how did you find this man that you're so supportive of? Right? Like, how did you find this fulfilling relationship? How did you create it? Where did you meet? How have you maintained it? Right? Like, instead of judging them and being negative because you want it, like you're jealous or envious, ask them how they did it. Right? Because you might find that you'll get some good answers that you can model and emulate in your own life. And I'm almost willing to bet that most of those negative comments were from more Western societies, right? I'm not sure where exactly, but I would definitely venture a guess America, maybe a few other Western countries, but that's just kind of a wild guess there.
For her husband. She was cooking for her husband. And this might sound crazy, but this is something that you can't do on TikTok as a wife without facing extreme backlash.
I have pissed the internet off, specifically the women. The women are very triggered. So recently I've been posting some videos of me cooking for myself and my husband after my full-time job. And the comments under that video are diabolical.
I want you to take a look at some of these miserable comments. This chick says, "It's called free labor, a domestic slave. I'm not even sure what, I think she meant why you're not embarrassed posting this. Telling people how low your self-esteem is. Get a divorce, watch Sharia 7, and start implementing." Listen, get a divorce is this woman's suggestion to this happily married wife. And also encouraging a wife to go listen to Sharia 7 is also...
Well, you never listen to advice from someone that doesn't have the results you want in a particular area, right? So, like, very clearly it's more than likely a very single girl or divorced woman in that comment saying that, right? Like, giving advice to someone who's already happily married and enjoying their life, it's like, it's a pointless comment, right? Like, that's just absolutely insane.
Diabolical. Another miserable chick here says, "Cold, overworked, and underpaid." So she's telling her she's being overworked for cooking after work when she really doesn't have to. Mind you, this comment right here has 41.
What's nuts about that is, like, when you're in a happy relationship and you're dating someone that you really like, dating, official, boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, whatever it is, right? You want to do nice things for your partner, whether you're the man or the woman, right? Like, you want to do essentially like acts of kindness in some way from time to time for your partner because you like them, you love them, whatever, right? You respect them. And so you want to do things like this. So it's the level of insanity of getting those kinds of that amount of negative comments on social media because of something like that just shows like something has been breeding a what would you call it, like a virus in people's mindsets.
Likes. 41,000 women agree with this post. Here's somebody else who says, I call it a sucker. So the wife, Griselda, explains it's her choice. She cooks about 75% of the week because she loves her husband and gets home before him. It's an act of love and selflessness, not oppression.
First of all, I didn't know it was a crime to cook for someone you love in 2024. Didn't know that. Secondly, this is a choice. I cook if I want and I don't if I don't want to. My husband doesn't make me or require me to do anything. I'm not some abused and oppressed woman. I care enough about my husband to think, you know what? He probably is hungry and would like to eat when he gets home. I'm selfless enough to sacrifice a little bit of my time and energy for someone that I love. Some of y'all's comments are just really rude and really mean. Like when I posted that video or just posting on social media, like in general, you will get negative comments. But when y'all are calling me out my name, and that's when it's kind of like, okay, you have bigger problems than the problem that you think that I have.
And guys, quick side note, if you're dealing with...
I just want to say, by the way, that if you haven't picked up on this already or seen it in your own life, a lot of times the single people, how do I say this? Maybe not all the time, but there are single people that exist, single friends that exist, and maybe that means that they're not really a friend, or a good friend at least, that will help keep you single, right? And what I mean by that is, I could start dating a girl, get into a relationship, and then maybe some guys would give me advice that would steer towards staying single, right? And sometimes you have to decide the validity of the advice that you're getting. Does the guy have the results you want with dating? Because sometimes it can be complicated, right? There's certain things that can be true about what they're saying, right? Like it might be a good idea for you to end the relationship, and at the same time, what we're talking about here, right? Like there's so many situations. I'm sure it's more common on the other side, right? For women, right? Because I've seen that a lot, right? Where it's like the single girlfriends, they all go out to the bar or the club or the girls' trip to Miami, Vegas, Dubai, whatever, right? Like a hot girl summer, which is code word for hooking up with guys a ton, right? I mean, let's just call it what it is. They'll be like, oh no, it's just living your best life. No, it's getting intimate with too many guys. And the interesting part about this is you might have heard the term crabs in a bucket before. So basically it's like, you know, like even a different example, right? Like someone wants to start something or gets like a great opportunity and they want to leave their hometown. Well, all the townies who don't have a supportive mindset will basically be like the crab, be like, oh, I don't know if you should try that. You really want to, are you sure you want to do that? Like, why not do this instead? You know, like they'll try to like give you advice to not grow. And then there's a lot of situations like with the girl thing, right? It's like single girlfriends, especially ones that do stuff like the bar, club, etc. They tend to keep each other single. I mean, look at what the friends are like as well, right? That's like what this comment section that this guy is going over is like, look at what the friends are like. Because if the friends are like eternally single, not happy in a relationship, always going out clubbing to the bars, etc., what are the chances that she's actually the angel that you think she is? Right? And I'm not saying it's like impossible, but it's pretty unlikely, right? Like the percentage chance if you were to look at it that way. So it's just kind of interesting what they're talking about right now.
Chick right now, and she believes cooking for you is oppression. Then just run away, bro. Fast, not slow. And if you thought that was an isolated incident, meet Ra, another TikToker who is also a happily married woman who's suffering at the hands of bitter women on TikTok. Wow. She posted a video specifically for women who like their husband. She said in the video, this video is for women who like their husband. Almost like she knew to filter out the bitter women on TikTok because there's just so many of them. She went on to jokingly suggest that if you didn't like your husband, you could keep scrolling.
This is for the girls that actually like their husbands. If you don't really like your husband, just keep going. Studies have shown that men's favorite scents are actually pumpkin pie and vanilla.
So then she goes on to talk about some girl shit, But what followed next were comments that were so bitter from other women who were commenting about how much they don't like their husbands, that she actually made a separate video responding back to a particular comment that read, "Wait, people like their husbands?"
I will never understand how people think this is a flex. The number of people commenting on my video and saying the way I scrolled so fast. And this is not like the man versus bear debate. This is the man that you stood in front of your friends, your family, God, and said, yeah, that's my number one. That's my guy. How is that not your best friend, your ace? I don't get it. This is the weirdest socially acceptable joke that people make. It's such like a boomer thing. And it is so weird to me. Like, my husband is literally my best.
It's funny because to them it's not a joke, which means that it's not funny. Right? Like, to them it's not a joke because they're serious and they're that delusional that they think, really, again, it goes back to the thing, like, they're jealous, they're envious, they're bitter, they've had some tough situations, it's been hard for them to get their dating life going the right way or keep someone around, or they've been divorced, it's XYZ, right? It's victim mindset, basically. And guys can do it too, right? Guys will be like, oh, this X, Y, and Z happened, I was divorced, blah, blah, blah. So it's impossible to find a good woman. It's like, really, it's impossible? Or are you just bad at picking? I'll be real with you, right? I mean, like, I know that probably pissed somebody off that's watching this, but I'm just being real with you. Like, you have to be able to interview properly for the candidate for the role, right? So if you're going to hire, and don't get this twisted, I'm not, because this will go play into that little mindset that they had in those comments, right? Like, you mean she's working a job, she's a slave, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not like that. It's like, one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make is your life partner, right? Especially who you decide to get potentially married or have kids. Maybe you don't even need to get married in today's environment, right? Like, you could go a different route of, like, just have a long-term relationship. You're committed to each other and you have a family. You could go that route too without the, the government involved, XYZ. But there are ways around these things. And yeah, it's just like, it's kind of nuts to me that there's this level of delusion going on.
Friend, he's my favorite person. I can't wait for him to come home today so that we can hang out and, like, go do something together with our baby. And I can't wait to have 5 billion more babies with him. Like, I don't get it. Does anybody else absolutely love, adore, and is obsessed with their husband? Or is it just me? And no, this obviously doesn't apply if you're in some sort of terrible, messed up situation. This is your normal, average marriage.
Unfortunately, if you are a woman who loves, appreciates, respects your husband, and truly, truly do value him, and TikTok.
What I was saying, right, is you have to be able to filter or vet for red flags, toxic situations, delusional behavior, like maybe some of the people in those comment sections, so you can have someone that's actually a good fit for you.
Is the wrong place for you to share that, because you just get attacked. It's just what we see over and over again. And we've seen this exact same thing. Wives who show appreciation to their husbands get slammed and catch backlash so many times. I've actually covered a lot of these topics. There was the surgeon wife who went viral for willingly cooking for her husband after a 13-hour shift. People were really upset about that and wanted clarification whether she was cooking while he was kicking his feet up and watching her cook.
I just got home from a 24-hour shift, and so many people have sent me my video that has made it to Twitter, and it has made it to Instagram. Is my husband at home, sitting on the couch, watching me slave away while he did absolutely nothing? Yes.
And then there was another wife serving her man food who went viral because the sight of seeing a woman serve her man is so rare today that she built a whole following of men just based off that. Going to the stove, making his plate, and then walking over a few steps and handing it to him. The men were enamored. And then another wife who prepared food for her husband and his friends triggered a bunch of bitter women, and she happened to go viral as well for all the wrong reasons. I'll be honest, nothing to me is more confusing than seeing women who are married triggered by other wives catering to their husbands. That doesn't make sense to me. And it's not that they only dislike seeing wives do nice things for their husbands. They also refuse to believe that there's such thing as a happily married couple. There are a bunch of women out here who just don't believe it exists. Here's a video from another wife that's captioned, "Healthy and happy marriages do exist in the Black community." Check it out.
I said it before, I'll say it again. There's a lot of miserable women out here. I don't know why y'all find it so hard to believe that a woman, a Black woman, could be with a Black man, married, and actually be happy. Y'all love to be shady and throw shade because you're so miserable. You've not experienced a happy relationship. You haven't experienced a good black man. So you can't even believe that I could really be happy. You can't believe that she could really be happy. You can believe that she can really be happy with her black husband and her beautiful black family.
Right.
Y'all love to throw quotations. Oh, because she thinks she better because she in her fake happy relationship and her fake happy home.
Wow.
Why does it have to be fake?
A part of me thinks that the reason why the chicks probably hate, maybe it's like seeing something that you wish you had, right?
Yeah.
If you see a woman treating her husband very, very well, you think to yourself, well, there's probably a reason she does that. The man probably treats her well.
Yeah.
This is not a one-way thing. She's reciprocating the type of love, care, compassion that she receives from the husband who she's with. At the end of the day, if these chicks are single, they're probably jealous. And if they think they deserve something that they really don't, which is a better man who makes more money, who's whatever, probably doesn't exist, then they'll probably be bitter and jealous as well. What do you guys think? Comment down below.
It's so sad, and it makes you should realize. It makes me realize, shall I say? That's how miserable and bitter people are when they can't even see good for other people. You can't believe it. You can't fathom that I can really be happy. When I say I'm happy, I really am. You can't believe that. But that's a you problem. And we got to stop projecting. We got to stop hating on the next woman, praying on her downfall.
Realizing that there are potentially hundreds of thousands of married women on TikTok who love sharing how much they can't stand their husbands makes you wonder what their husbands did or didn't do to result in their negative mindset. What I've found from watching a lot of women express why they dislike the marriages they're in is that in many cases, a lot of them just simply aren't happy. Happiness is a complicated thing to solve for yourself. But when it comes to being responsible for someone else's happiness, figuring that out is nearly impossible. Here's what the host of the Happy Wife podcast has to say about being responsible for the happiness of your significant other, specifically a wife.
So your wife being unhappy is her having an unhealthy relationship with herself. When you think of it in that context, there's nothing you can do to help her have a healthy relationship with herself.
Well, I mean, that's like everybody thing, right? Like no one else. That's the thing. Like people get wrong about like I'm looking for my soulmate. I'm looking for my other half, someone to complete me, right? Like that's a joke, right? Because I heard someone else put this a good way, right? It's like you have to create your life in a way that you're fulfilled and happy with it. It's awesome, right? So you bake the entire cake. You've got the whole cake. You're not looking for a second half of the cake. You got the whole cake, and the relationship is essentially the cherry on top, right? So even if you don't have the relationship, you've got a pretty damn good cake under that, right? So it makes no real difference. Although, side note to that, right, is like, again, picking the wrong person can really do some damage in your life, and then it might mess up the cake, right? Or it might like make the cake so much better. Like people who are successful becoming way more successful because they have an amazing person behind them. Like they basically have like nitro fuel or like skyrockets their success, right? So I think I heard this somewhere before. It's like happiness is an inside job. And it's true, right? It's a funny saying, but again, like you don't need someone to complete you. You make yourself happy. You love yourself. You respect yourself. And then usually this amazing relationship comes from that. So maybe that's part of what's happening here. But at the same time, I would venture a guess that there are some situations where there's a really good guy, right? You know, there's all sorts of situations, right? Like not great relationship on both sides, right? Could be both, could be one or the other. Or maybe there's like a really great woman, not so great guy, really great guy, not so great woman. Also, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but again, right, like it comes down to your choices, and have you been able to make yourself happy, right? Because I would take a guess that some of these things were simply poor choices, like sometimes the woman choosing a guy that's not the best fit. Like I think sometimes that's true, and then I think sometimes if it's someone like one of these commenters from the video, I would be willing to bet that a lot of them, if it's a married person, I would almost guess that a lot of them probably picked like a decent guy, right? picked a decent guy, and then it's more the woman is just unhappy for whatever internal reason, right? So that has nothing to do with the guy at that point, right? Like, oh, he needs to make me happy, this and that. No. That's not how that works, right? Because it's like, especially if it devolved, right? Like it was like good, and then somehow he hasn't been doing anything different than how they were happy in the beginning, and now she's unhappy. That even makes it more obvious, right? So of course, you know, I don't need the all police coming after me here, right? Like everybody's got different situations. Sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the girl, one of them causing a struggle. But it's worth recognizing the nuance in this.
That's her responsibility. And it was her doing that she has an unhealthy relationship with herself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to retire from thinking there's something you can do to make your wife happy. You still be a good man because that's who you are and what makes you feel good about yourself. But again, not from a place of thinking it's going to make her happy. She has to make herself happy, period. Yeah. That's what we all have to do as humans. We have no ability to make another happy. Now, I often say with a good man, if we're happy as women, life is good because a good man's nature is feeling good and confident in himself and trusting in life and being a problem solver, therein having a healthy relationship with himself and life. So if we're happy in ourselves, that solves a good man's biggest problem in his marriage, which is his wife being unhappy in herself. So it's so much simpler for us as women to take responsibility for our happiness. And a good man, like I said earlier, will just be right there waiting for us in the nature of who he is as a good man. So thanks for the question.
If two people genuinely care about each other, those two people in a relationship will go out of their way to be kind and respectful to their significant other. That's not the point, right? This is not about, well, should he not be nice or kind to his wife or vice versa. The point is, happiness is an emotion and no one else is responsible for your feelings but you. But with all these unhappy married women begs the question, why don't they just leave? Why don't they just divorce their husbands? Now, I'm not suggesting that they divorce their husbands, but I'm curious why they haven't. An article by Married Agenda with the headline, Married Women Who Win the Lottery Are Far More Likely to Ditch Their Husbands, might provide some insight. The article states that married women who win the lottery are almost twice as likely to divorce their husbands compared to men who win, while male winners see increased marriage rates and reduced divorce risks. The wealth boost accelerates exit and divorce intentions for women. Why? Well, divorce...
Well, that kind of implies that it was either never a good fit to begin with, and it was simply the fact that he was able to support her, or it became not a good fit over time, right? Now, how do I say this? Because men, and let's just say it's a good man, right? He wants to be kind. He wants to treat his wife well. He wants her to feel safe, provided for, secure, right? So, especially if he's unaware that she's unhappy, like there's nothing that he can do about it, right? I mean, like he probably thinks it's the same as it always was, and I mean, he's happy to work on the relationship, right? You know, men are, like, especially good men are very loyal, right? So it's interesting if you run into a situation where for some reason she's feeling different. And that's implying that it's a good man, right? Guy working on himself, you know, a guy providing, you know, doing the best he can, right? Wants to grow, wants to learn always. Because that's different. That's a different thing than it being like a actually toxic situation. Because I think people throw that term around too much. You know? So that's, it's interesting, right? Because it implies that something changed over time. Which is possible. Maybe it really wasn't the right fit at a certain point. Or it was never a good fit to begin with because of the financial thing.
Is expensive. I don't think it's unlikely married women on TikTok are simply discouraged from divorcing their husbands because of the expense some of them would probably occur due to the decision to divorce. The data is very clear that more and more women are breadwinners within their home, right? You've got the chicks that married and claim that they could do anything a man can, but they're upset that they pay all the bills. And then you have the bitter women who are probably just mad that they hit the wall, right? They know that going back into the dating market will be a disaster. Regardless, something tells me that If those bitter wives who openly shame their husbands happen to win the lottery, they would probably most likely divorce their poor husbands and break up their families. And that is exactly what a woman by the name of Denise Rosie did, except things didn't really work out in her favor and she had to drink some coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Denise Rosie's life turned unexpectedly when she won $1.3 million in a U.S. lottery game. Just 11 days after her windfall, Denise initiated divorce proceedings with her husband, Thomas Rosie, ending their 25-year marriage. So you're a guy, you're married, boom, all of a sudden your wife wants to divorce you. You're wondering why. So the reason for the sudden divorce soon became the...
By the way, never ever expect someone to read your mind. The level of insanity that takes, right? Like, even like there's no excuse for this, right? Because some people will be like, well, we've been dating for a while, we've known each other for so long, they should just know me, right? Or he should just know me, right? He should just know how I feel, right? Like, he's gonna pick up your signals, right? It's like, sure, maybe like a little bit, but like, if there's something that's going wrong or you want to work on and you need to talk about it, instead of simmering and steaming and boiling over it, use your words. like communicate, right? The level of insanity that it takes to expect someone to read your mind, no matter how long you've known them, is astronomical. Communicate. Healthy communication. If you're upset, save the conversation for later. Don't force the conversation, but still have the conversation, right? Because imagine that, right? Like that situation, like you surprise the your significant other that you want to break up, and it's like, where did this come from? Like, I thought everything was good, right? Like, that's just nuts.
Crux of a bitter legal battle. Denise had concealed her lottery winnings from Thomas. Years after their divorce was finalized, Thomas discovered her hidden fortune. Now here's where the coffee was served. The court ruled that Denise's failure to disclose her lottery prize violated asset disclosure laws and fraudulent conduct. As a result, she was ordered to relinquish the entire $1.3 million to her ex-husband in structured installments.
I forget the state it was, but a woman had won the lottery.
Right.
She didn't tell her husband, and she divorced him because she didn't want to give him half.
You can do that?
No, the husband found out. The judge made her give it all to him.
What?
That's why, hey, man, look, you and I done been through situations with that child support and they asked for discovery. There you go. This is what I make. This is how much I got saved. This is what I got stocks and bonds. This is what I have such as no, sir. Your Honor, this is what we discovered, Mr. Sharp held back $3 million. Oh no. Bad, they light your butt up.
Hey, listen, that's one of the reasons I'm thankful. I'm thankful for those that I have kids from. I ain't really have to deal with that.
Had Denise been transparent about her winning?
He's about to say it, I think. Like, had she been transparent about her winnings, she could have kept half rather than losing it all because she lied. That's nuts.
She might have retained a portion of the prize. Instead, her secrecy led to a court ruling decisively in favor of Thomas. The case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of honesty and transparency, particularly in the complex terrain of divorce proceedings. Speaking of honesty, how much would you like to bet that a lot of these married women who secretly spend time online talking about how much they dislike their marriage and their husbands in particular are married to men who have no idea that they're online talking shit? This TikToker's husband finally found out about her TikTok, where she shares private information about how she regrets getting married, how she's unhappy in her marriage, and how much she's lost. And her husband found out and, of course, was furious. And what do you think that she did next? She grabbed her phone, went on her camera, pressed record, and told the internet everything.
Back in the closet again, where it all started. So everything has been super awkward in my household since my husband found out about my TikTok account. And if you're new here, I started this account 6 or 7 months ago, made some videos about my marriage and how frustrated I was with it. And like a dummy, I told my husband about it. It felt like he had a right to know. Anyway, he blew up, got really mad, and now everything in the house is really super awkward. I guess the good thing about it all is that we ended up having a conversation that was not great, but the resolution was that we're not going to be married anymore. We're trying to work out the details of that, but this is a space and time where it's hard to talk. There's actually a lot of silence going on. everybody feels uncomfortable, everybody feels weird, and we can't really have any conversation about how to move forward at this point. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of emotions, all of that. So what I'm discovering is how much silence there really is between us and how there really isn't much to say. We can't talk it out anymore. The time for talking is kind of over.
He went on your TikTok. He saw all your posts hating on him and complaining, probably very, very, very ungrateful in real life, along with the thousands, hundreds of thousands of bitter women there cheering you on and congratulating. Did you expect anything less?
But we still do have to talk to try to work out what we're going to do next. And we're not really ready. We're not in a space to do that right now because everything is really raw. Everything is really raw right now. It's raw. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. So what I'm trying...
Again, right, like communication. Like they could have just talked. Instead of her posting their business on the internet. And then him finding out later. And being able to watch the videos. Like imagine like thinking like everything's good. Like living your life, feeling good. Got a great marriage, boom, boom, boom. Sees this stuff like, oh my God, like she feels this way. And then I don't know, they haven't said it in this, but like, because this is bad enough. Even if it was just a relationship without the marriage, then you bring the marriage into the equation. And then she hasn't said this, but if it was like all this and then kids, which I'm sure has been another situation that has happened too, like the damage that you're doing, especially for your kids too, it's like, man, that's insane.
To do moving forward is just move with discernment and quiet. And it's funny too, because for the longest time in like my relationship, I felt like I didn't have a voice.
All right, we're not about to listen to this. I do think it's interesting. She's talking about moving with discernment and quiet, but you're posting everything on TikTok. Somebody please make it make sense. TikTok has become home base for bitter women who hate happily married women, masculine men, and happy families. It's also a space specifically for disgruntled wives to encourage one another to divorce their hardworking husbands. A place where accountability and coffee is almost non-existent if it weren't for the few wives who actually drink coffee and appreciate masculine, solid men. Listen, it's one thing if your stance on marriage and family is that it's not for me and you're not going to get married, fair. It's another thing if your goal in life is to encourage other women and men to break up their families for the sake of happiness. Personally, I believe I'm blessed that I know.
Again, crabs in a bucket. Crabs in a bucket. Oh, that one's getting out. We got to pull him back in. All right, like imagine you have a happy, healthy relationship, great life, and then you got other single people giving you advice to make you single. What a world.
A lot of happy married couples. I do think that most people who are in healthy relationships really try to protect their relationship by not being full on out with it. And that may be part of the reason a lot of people don't see a lot of it. And naturally, the loudest people are usually people who are the most upset and the most pain.
Yeah, there's a lot of loud people on the internet, for sure. And that's why like certain content blows up because it's divisive or like negative, because like even news, right, it's like fear-based. And so it gets more attention rather than the positive news. I think we've all noticed that, right? Like the positive news gets less press, and the like, oh, this scary thing gets more press, or divisive content for social media, right? And just on top of all this, right, it's one thing if you actually had healthy communication and you exhausted all of your options to talk it out, make things work, especially if there were kids involved, right? Like actually making a genuine effort to make things work, and at the end of the day it didn't work. That's one thing. I would wonder what the statistics look like if there was like a study done, what the percentage of divorces are, or even breakups, that actually they put their full effort into, versus just like it was like an impulse, emotional decision, or for some stupid reason like posting it on TikTok, right?
And that's how that goes. And sometimes even here in the comment section down below on the Coffee Pod. Listen, as always, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.
Awesome, guys. Well, definitely a very interesting episode. I hope that you're able to take something interesting from this, some value, that it'll help you in some way, right? Because this essentially displays the importance. At least there's a lot of other examples of this we'll go over in the future, I'm sure. But it displays the importance of knowing what you're doing when dating so that you can avoid landmines, getting your leg blown off, right? Like metaphorically, of course, or emotionally, right? Like avoiding bad situations so that you can identify a potential partner who would be a good fit for you for fulfilling a long-term relationship. Like who is actually legitimately, genuinely mother material versus like someone who's like very like neurotic, erratic, like ultra emotional, like to a point where it like causes crazy situations like these, right? So keep in mind to work on this stuff. Do not check out of dating, right? Like that's, you can do that and be a victim and give up, or you can figure it out. You can choose your heart, basically. So you guys, I'm saying all this because I want you to live a fulfilling life and also enjoy a healthy, happy family. With that said, thank you for watching this far. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You got this, bro.